Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I offer one-on-one angel sessions that take place over the phone. They are 1 hour long. And they are lovely. It's a lovely way to connect with your divine guidance and your divine team and receive encouragement and inspiration and insight. And then I also offer a longer form of support called soul mentoring, where we meet each week. And it's a phenomenal way to support yourself as you go through a time of transformation or change. And then I offer a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And every 6 weeks or so, I offer a different class. It's always interesting to me to see what I'm inspired to offer from the angels and from our community. I am getting ready to offer a 6-week Creating Your Oracle Deck class. So I just released my own Oracle deck called the Earth Angels Oracle. And I've heard from many of you that this is inspiring you to create your own. And so I am putting the final touches on a 6-week class where I will share with you my roadmap of how I did it. And hopefully that will help you move forward as well. So to learn about any of my offerings, I invite you to go to my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can sign up for my mailing list. And there are actually 2 different mailing lists you can sign up for. At the top of my homepage, you can sign up for my regular mailing list, and you'll get my announcements and my ramblings and things like that. Further down in the homepage, you can sign up for the daily inspiration email blast, and you will get an inspiring email from me every weekday. And then you also can find me over at Facebook. And one last place we can connect. You may not know this, I haven't really announced it, but all of these podcast episodes are also available on YouTube. There's no video, so if you're hoping for a video of me recording these episodes, that's not what they are. They are audio only with a static image. But if you're someone that prefers to participate via YouTube, that is also an option. But for now, gorgeous, beautiful, big, bright soul, the angels and I are here to help you come in to a beautiful, sweet space where you can rest and replenish. I have designed and created this podcast because I am an avid listener of sleep podcasts. I listen to one every night before I go to sleep. It helps me go to sleep. And I love them so much that I was guided to create this one because I'm of the belief that you can't have too much inventory out there, right? It's like I'm always looking for a different voice, a different experience. And so I was guided to create this one. And then this has sort of become its own thing, sort of a hybrid. It's a sleep podcast, but it's also a podcast you can listen to during your waking hours because it will keep you company. And you don't have to focus too hard, and you don't have to pay attention, and you don't have to learn something super important. It's a very gentle broadcast. And I'm just here to keep you company. And how the episodes are designed is they run about 60 minutes. And that's because that's my preference. when I'm listening to a sleep podcast, I want it to be at least 60 minutes long so that I don't feel like I have to hurry up and fall asleep, because I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. So usually the first 15 or 20 minutes, which is the part we're in right now, I will share with you something spiritually related. I'll bring in the angels for you, some sweet soothing energies. And then the second part of the episode is story time. And I have come to love the story times, both as a creator and a listener. So sometimes I will share with you stories from my own life. That's what I'm going to do in this episode. Other times I'll read to you from something that's in the public domain, or I'll find a publication like an old cookbook or a TV guide and flip through the pages, and we can flip through the pages together. So nothing earth-shattering, nothing super important that you have to pay attention to. I think of this as kind of just that loving, rambling conversation you might have with a friend. Yeah, if we were going to meet for lunch, I would share with you some of my stories and you would share with me some of yours. But since this is a podcast, it just has my stories in it. But if you have a podcast where you share your stories, you feel free to let me know, because I would love to hear your stories too. So, my beautiful friend, I invite you to take a deep breath in and just release whatever came before this moment. This broadcast is infused with love for you, not only from my heart, but more importantly, from the heart of your angels. And yes, you have angels. At least I believe you do. And that belief brings me profound comfort. Because when I connect with and contemplate the angels, I contemplate this vast expanse of divine love. Some might call it unconditional love, but I don't like that term very much, because we often will use that in association with human love. And human love is rarely unconditional. Human love can be unconditional until it's conditional. Right? Like we can fall out of love. Love can dwindle. And divine love never does. In fact, divine love has much more in common with the sun than it does with the human expression of love. So the sun shines, it shines without prejudice, always. And the sun will warm me, and it'll warm my neighbor, and it'll warm you. It's available, and it is abundant. And sure, there are times that it can appear to us that the sun is obscured by clouds, by the rotation of the earth. But it always exists. We never doubt that the sun is gone, or that we are unworthy of the sun, or that I am more deserving of the sun than you are. So if you can imagine that divine love is more than the sun, it is this expression of love that is expansive and all-encompassing. I have shared with you before, I don't even know in what episode, so I can't refer you back to it, but I had a visitation, a dream in 2000, early 2000, where I experienced what I perceived to be the fullness of this kind of love, and it changed me. Not right away, it's not as if my life was immediately different, but it opened me up to a different understanding of the wholeness of love. And listen, up until that point, I have lived a well-loved life. I have been well-loved. you've listened to this podcast, I had two beautiful parents who loved me every single moment of my life. But there's a beautiful lyric by the singer-songwriter David Wilcox. And it says, "There's a break in the cup that holds love inside of me." And I used to just sob to that song because it felt so true, because it felt like no matter how much love I received, it always seemed to run out. Because when I was alone within myself, I could not feel that love for self. And that, I think, has been my biggest life lesson, was how to learn how to love myself, flaws and all. Like, it's easy to love the parts of ourselves that are lovable. But how do we love the parts of ourselves that we struggle with? And when I started at the University of Santa Monica, that's where I attended to get my degree in spiritual psychology. The first weekend, they had us go into meditation and attune to a quality that we would work with throughout the first year that we were students. And it could be anything. It could be courage, abundance, happiness. Mine was self-love. Because I didn't know how to love this complicated being that I was. I didn't know how to love myself in this large body that I couldn't seem to do anything about. I didn't know how to love different parts of myself. The self-love that I had experienced up until that point was fragmented. And apologies if there's a little bit of background noise. That's my husband getting ready to go to work. I'm actually recording this earlier than usual, so he's still here. I love it when he's home, so it brings me comfort. But if you're hearing a little bit of extra noise, that's Wes. So, committing to the process of self-love from this place of expansiveness that it doesn't even make sense to come to worthiness, because worthiness, again, is a polarity. Am I worthy of love? Am I not worthy of love? That's not even an appropriate question. It's like saying, is this tree worthy of sun? Right? Is this beautiful meadow worthy of existing? So this expansiveness of divine love, it simply exists. It's a vibration, it's an essence, it's a life force that exists, and it nurtures profound well-being and compassion and understanding and kindness within us. So my wish for you is that you experience joyful and radiant self-love. That was the full part of that component of my affirmation in my first year at USM. I am experiencing joyful and radiant self-love, and I am loving me. I know that's not great grammar, but it's what came forward. So my full affirmation was, I am experiencing joyful and radiant self-love, and I am loving me. And I am trusting in my knowingness and in my magnificence. And I am enthusiastically listening to the magic in my soul as it leads me on this beautiful journey as Laurel. And it was a little bit different the first year, but I changed it up. But those were the elements of my affirmation. And the thing about a good affirmation or intention is, in the beginning, it might feel more like a prayer. Like, please let me live my way into this being true. And that certainly was the case for me with my affirmation. And I would say it multiple times a day. I would say it as a prayer. I would say it in tears. I would say it out loud. I would claim it. And I kept moving towards it until it became my truth. And now I can't imagine not loving myself. I don't mean from an egoic, narcissistic standpoint of, I am so awesome. I'm complicated. I'm messy. I'm emotional. I'm high maintenance. I'm not a perfect or easy person to be with 24/7. But I have such deep compassion and understanding and love for the complexity of beingness that is me. And it allows me to have deep love for the messiness and the complexity and the imperfection and beauty that is you as well. Because this kind of love is not performative. It is not earned. It simply exists. And this is why I love working with the angels so much, because this is the essence that they share with us. So, take a beautiful, sweet, deep breath in, my friend. And I'm going to invite the angels to be here. They're already here. But I want you to know they're here too. So beautiful, beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of love, waves of compassion, of understanding, and of goodness in service to each of our beloveds listening to this message. Please, angels, help them to recognize and know their innate preciousness in this world. Help them to see their true beauty, their light, the sweetness of their spirit. And dear ones, just take some nice deep breaths in as the angels bring their energy closer to you. I invite you to rest into their love, even if you don't know what that means. Just conceptually breathe into it. In my mind's eye, what I see, perhaps it's just a vision they bring me to help me sink more deeply into it, is I see them filling the room that you are in with a soft pink light. And it's not important that you see this with your physical eyes or even in your mind's eye. Just imagine that it is there. And the soft pink light, it embraces you with love and understanding. It understands, it acknowledges all that you have been through, all that you are going through. And it is here to love and sustain you. It is here to give you strength. It is here to carry you through the hard parts. It is here to help you remember who you are as a divine being in human form. It is here to help you remember that, as they say at Agape Spiritual Center, you are one of the ways that God's love is made visible on this planet. Listen, I know there is a lot of dark stuff happening in the world, and the angels are going to help clear this for you from your energy field so that you can rest in a beautiful, bubble of light so that you can re-regulate your nervous system, so that you can breathe and find center and balance. And take a breath with me and let it out. You are a blessing here on earth. You are a beloved of the divine. You are precious and you are loved. And I am profoundly honored and grateful for this opportunity to be with you right now and to help you remember the truth of your light. So, my beautiful, sweet friend, I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in, especially if you are preparing for sleep. So just allow your body to relax in whatever way is available to you. And if you have prayers and intentions that you wish to share with God and the angels, you can always do that at any time, but in this sanctuary of light, I invite you to bring your prayers and intentions into your heart, and you can share them with God and the angels here. And your prayers and your intentions will be amplified in service to your highest and best good. And then the angels will ripple this love to all that you love and all that loves you, and then beyond that too. So I'm going to take a deep breath in with you and bless this moment as holy and sacred. Thank you, angels. Thank you, angels. Thank you for this beautiful, sweet oasis of love. Thank you for being here with us now. I'm so deeply grateful for this opportunity to be together in the light with all of you. And so, sweet ones, you get cozy, and we're going to move on into story time, because I have some stories for you. So a little segue into story time. Last night was one of those nights that I woke up at 3 a.m., which is not unusual for me. But usually at 3 a.m., my mind isn't racing. I might listen to a podcast and go back to sleep. My consciousness tends to stay quiet. But last night, for some reason, I started going through the narrative of this story time that I was going to record for you. And it was really good. And it kept going and going. And so I haven't slept a whole lot. And it's earlier than usual as I record this, because I thought, I don't want to lose this thread. So I don't know how dazzling this is going to be, but it definitely kept me amused at 3 a.m. And so this story time, there's going to be some rambling threads happening here, but our destination is to share with you more about my newest obsession. I have these waves of obsessions. They typically run about 6 months. And I'm going to talk more about that. But my present obsession is the live streams from crystal warehouses and factories and shops in China that are on TikTok. So in order to get into this story time, there's a couple things I need to fill you in on. One is how I get obsessed with things. So obsession maybe is a strong word, but I think it's fitting. So One thing you should know about me is astrologically, I have Mercury in Gemini. Mercury refers to how your mind works. And people with Mercury in Gemini, we are binge learners. When we want to learn something, we need to know everything about it right away. So Google and the internet was basically invented for people with Mercury in Gemini. See, I'm a terrible student if I don't want to learn something. If you tell me I need to learn physics and I don't want to because I don't care, I'm not going to learn it. But if there's something I want to learn, like genealogy or how to create my own oracle card deck, I'm going to leave no stone unturned as I binge learn all about it. And it's rewarding. You know, some people bungee jump. I binge learn. Now, binging has shown up for me in many different ways in my life. Certainly, I had that relationship with food my entire life. And I'm not just talking about, the term binging can be used in terms of an eating disorder, in terms of the quantity of consumption. That was never really my thing. It more was my obsession with different things. So I would drive miles for the cookie I wanted. And then, as most of you know, I had bariatric surgery and I went off of sugar. So I went off of sugar in 2019. 2019 was a big year and a horrible year in many ways. It's the year my mom was actively dying and then she passed away. And then we had to clear out our home of 60 years, you know, the family house. And while all of that was happening, terrible timing, Wes and I had embarked upon a renovation of our kitchen that wasn't going well, because if you've ever renovated a part of your house, you'll know it almost never goes well because contractors and all that jazz. And then our cat died. It was just a terrible time. And somehow, in the midst of all of this pain and craziness, maybe because I felt like I had nothing else to lose, it's when I decided to prepare for bariatric surgery and I went off of sugar on August 1st of 2019. Because I was consuming a tremendous amount of sugar and pastries, and that was my gateway food. And you might be wondering how this gets us to crystals on TikTok. I promise you we're going to get there. So, early 2020, this thing happens called COVID and the pandemic. Perhaps you've heard of it. And I wind up amazingly being able to get my bariatric surgery at the end of July of 2020. And in bariatric surgery, they talk about there being transfer addictions because you're no longer able to eat food the way you once did. And mostly they use that term for people not to get into drugs or alcohol. Well, my transfer addiction in late 2020 turned to yarn. And if you go listen to my crafting episodes, I talk about that. So I became obsessed with yarn and building my stash because I discovered you could have a stash of yarn. Like, I just didn't have to buy yarn for a specific project. I could buy yarn because I thought it was pretty and I loved it. And I started crocheting prayer shawls and blankets for people and loved it. Because before I went off sugar and had bariatric surgery, my way of decompressing was sitting in front of the television and eating. So now I couldn't really sit in front of the TV and eat. So I would sit in front of the TV and crochet. And that brought me a lot of comfort. Like whatever that neurochemical energy regulation that would have happened because I was eating and watching television, I received the same kind of reward from crocheting and watching television. So my first post-bariatric binge was yarn, which I still have so much of. I have so many big plastic bins of yarn in my office, which you don't see when I teach classes or record videos because they are strategically placed out of camera range, but I promise you they are there. My second binge came when I started this podcast, and I started binging community cookbooks because I discovered these amazing community cookbooks that were published in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s by groups of women who shared their favorite recipes, and temple sisterhoods and PTAs and PTOs published these amazing cookbooks. And I fell in love with these women, and I've shared quite a few of these cookbooks on the podcast, and I also have some plastic tubs of cookbooks now because I became obsessed and I needed all of them, which is impossible to do, right? My next obsession happened earlier this year, which very much surprised me, and it was coins. I share about that again in another podcast episode. And listen, it is a much more expensive hobby, and so I don't want it to sound like I'm, extravagantly binging on coins, but for instance, we were at a coin show a week ago, and one of my favorite coins, which are not really valuable more than face value, are the Eisenhower dollars, because I grew up with those being really special and they make me happy now. And you can't really buy them for $1 each right now. If you go into a coin store, you're going to pay $1.50 or $2 a piece, so you are going to pay more than face value. But to me, it's worth it because they make me happy. I feel the same way with Kennedy half dollars. So we met this guy at a coin show, and he says, "Oh, I have so many Eisenhower dollars. I sell them for $1.08 each." I'm like, that's a bargain. That's amazing. So I went to his store and I bought 20 Eisenhower dollars. So that's what I mean about binging coins. Like, I need coins. I need Eisenhower dollars. They make me happy. So that's kind of my pattern. When I was younger, it might be buying clothes. It certainly was going to restaurants with friends, right? My cousin Susie and I always laugh about how often we went to the Cheesecake Factory. So there are these things in life that bring me pleasure. And I get very pleasure driven, like hedonistic, and it brings me great joy. So whether it's a really beautiful yarn, or an amazing cookbook, or my Eisenhower dollars. And notice how none of these are food related, which is a profound victory for me. So now we're going to segue into crystals. The other piece that I need to put in here has to do with discretionary income. So, God willing, you might be in a place in your life where you have discretionary income. Discretionary income refers to if you have money to, let's say, go get a Starbucks once a week. It doesn't mean you're wealthy. I mean, I hope you're wealthy. That'd be awesome. But I think of discretionary income as that extra money that we might have to spend on things that aren't outlined in the first layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, do I have food? Do I have shelter? Do I have transportation? Once those are taken care of, I hope there's some leftover money with which I can do what I want. Maybe that's going to be a latte from Starbucks. Almost never is that the case for me. But I might have bought yarn. And it's so funny because there's an arbitrary bar. There's an arbitrary amount to me that is discretionary. So for me, anything I buy that's less than $20, I think of as free. It's not really free. It costs money. I don't mean to make it sound that way, but it doesn't trigger anything in me that says, oh my God, I'm getting out of control. I need to be mindful. Right? So if I go out to eat, which I don't go out to eat very often, food's gotten expensive. Like it used to be, if I was going to go out and grab myself lunch, it would be under $10. Now I'm lucky if it's under $15, so I don't eat out very often, but $20 is pretty much my bar. Sometimes up to $50 if it's something really, really good. My husband's arbitrary bar is much, much higher than mine. This is where Crystal TikTok is going to come into the story. I promise you we will get here. So what is Crystal TikTok? So I'm glad you asked. So there are factories and merchants, warehouses, marketplaces in China that sell nothing but crystals and stones. And they do live broadcasts on TikTok. And when you enter a live broadcast, the host can see that you're there, so it's not anonymous. Now, some channels may have a lot of viewers, 20, 40, 100, and some of them just have 2 people or 4 people in there. So it's not uncommon to enter a TikTok live for crystals and for the host to welcome you. And then they show you things. They're showing everybody things. So I became obsessed. This obsession, this binging got triggered by Crystal TikTok because who doesn't love crystals? And I'm not talking about the big, gorgeous clusters of crystals that might cost $500. Remember, my threshold is what? $20. I could buy things at the $20 mark, which totally flies underneath my radar of, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Not trouble with a capital T, trouble, lowercase, small font. So, the first purchase I made is from a woman named Iris. And Iris has a channel where there is a vat, a huge tub filled with different kinds of crystals. Now, when I first got on TikTok in 2020, pandemic, like what else was there to do? I watched TikTok. There's a woman named Kendra who I think is based in Canada. And when she sold her crystals, she gave you a scoop of what she called crystal confetti. Now, the crystal confetti that she was giving scoops of consisted of a lot of different crystal chips, tumbles, little hearts, little stars, things like that. And she had a big tub of them, and she'd put a scoop in, and the scoop would go into a bag, and it was this big deal. And I thought, this is beautiful. I love crystal confetti. And everything she did was always sold out, and I never bought any. But I was kind of intrigued at this idea of getting a scoop of all of this crystal goodness, because it activates that part of me that loves the buffet approach to life, the buffet where you have a variety. You don't have to pick just one thing, you get a lot of things. So I was introduced to this concept by Kendra's channel. So while I'm scrolling through the TikTok crystal lives a month or 2 ago, I come to Iris's channel. Huge tub. Massive crystals. Like, not massive big crystals. I mean a massive amount of small crystals, like rose quartz hearts and carvings and tumbles and chips. And I had a coupon. I love a good coupon. I don't know about you. Coupons are life. And so I could get 50% off up to $20 off. And Iris had this deal where for $39.95, you could get 8 scoops plus a ring and an extra little crystal apple. And I had a coupon, so I could get that for only $19.95. So I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. And I said to Iris in the comments, because you can, I said, I love rose quartz hearts. Can you try and get me a lot of rose quartz hearts in my scoops? And she's like, yes, Laurel, of course I can. And another thing I should say about the hosts on Crystal TikTok is your baby Laurel, Laurel honey, Laurel dear, there's always some term of affection. And if anyone out here speaks Chinese, I would love to know, in the Chinese culture and language, is there always a term of affection that goes with the name? Because so many of the hosts do that. I'm assuming that's part of the culture, but it's the sweetest thing. And so she did my 8 scoops, and it was so cool. And then it typically takes 2 to 3 weeks to get here from China. So that was my first order. That was my gateway order. And it arrived, and I was excited, but I wasn't over the moon. You know, when you're like, I need to go get and fill in your food of choice, and then you get it, and it's okay, but the anticipation of the food in some ways increased the pleasure of it once it arrived. The experience of getting of ordering my scoops, of buying the scoops and anticipating my scoops arriving almost gave me greater pleasure than when they actually arrived, because when they arrived, they were inert. They already existed. They were a part of my everyday life. So the buying of them was part of the joy. And if you shop at Home Goods or TJ Maxx or any of those places, you will know of what I speak. All right, so the next, well, I'm going to skip the next one because it wasn't as great an experience, but I learned from it. Then I found these other merchants, and the way they worked is they would bring out a lot of one thing at a time. And typically, the things that they brought out were only $1 or $2 a piece. So the host might bring out a basket of rose quartz tumbles, and they're $1 a piece. And you would open a basket, and then you would let them know how many of those you wanted. And you could just buy 1, you could buy 10, whatever you wanted. So typically you're in a room with 10 or 20 other people, and they're rotating through all of these different products. So it's kind of, you jump in the stream and you open your basket, and then you tell the host when they bring the item on screen if you want any of whatever they're selling. So I might say, when she has the rose quartz tumbles, I might say claim 2. That means I would like 2 rose quartz tumbles. And that was kind of addicting and fun. So if you purchase $20 or more, you would get free shipping. So that was my strategy, right? Get to the $20. I'll buy some cute tchotchkes, the Yiddish word, and then I will get free shipping. Well, the thing is that when I am saying, yes, 2 of that and 1 of that, and my brain is going, they're only $1 each, it adds up. So I think my first order from that store was $53. So I definitely was not keeping track. But I got such cool stuff. So you might be wondering, what are you spending your money on, Laurel? Well, I'm going to go through. I have it all in this lovely plastic little shoebox. So let me share with you some of the things I have purchased so far. So there are some really lovely stones that have words on them. I'm a sucker for things with words on them. So one of the words on one of the stones says healing, very appropriate. Another one says believe. Another one says trust. So I bought quite a few of those because they were stones and they had words, right? I mean, of course I had to buy those. I bought worry stones. A worry stone is a flat stone that has a little bit of an indentation in it, and you can rub your thumb against it, and it's supposed to help you. And I thought, sure, why not? I could use those, and if I'm going to get one, I should get more, because maybe I want different stones. So I have amethyst worry stones, and a lapis worry stone, and a rose quartz worry stone. And, I've been a stone crystal person for a long time, but I'm not I am obsessed. I was going to say I'm not obsessed, but I'm not somebody who turns to crystals for healing. Like, I can't tell you the qualities of every stone, and that's what I mean. That's not my thing. I just know what I like. I know what's pretty. So I'm discovering new stones that I didn't know about, and one of them is flower agate. And I don't know if you've ever seen flower agate before. It comes some are darker stones and some are lighter stones, but they all have like these blooms of white in the stone that look like flowers. They're a little translucent while also being opaque, and so anytime a flower agate heart was on the screen, usually those would be anywhere between $2 and $5 each. I was like, yes, claim one, claim two. I was all about the flower agate. So I'm holding a flower agate heart in my hand right now, and it is beautiful. And then something else you should know about me, I love little things. So in the ice cream episode that I did, I talked about the baby pink spoons from Baskin-Robbins, right? You get the tiny spoon. You don't know this yet because I haven't announced it, but I have a tiny deck of my oracle cards I'm about to release, so they're tiny and they make me happy. So they have baby hearts, tiny hearts, little hearts made out of lots of different crystals. So I kind of went on a binge of baby hearts. So I'm holding one in my hand right now that is made out of lapis. It's beautiful. It's blue and it's got some gold running through it, and it just makes me so happy. So each one of the hosts, of course, because they're a human being, have their own personality. So you kind of are getting to know the hosts. I never thought I'd be one of these people. I used to, every once in a while, I'd watch HSN or QVC back in the day, and I always kind of scoffed at the people who knew the hosts and would say, I'm so glad it's you. I love watching your show. And now I know the names of the different hosts on the Crystal TikTok channels. So that's one of them, where they bring the individual items out and you tell them how many you want. A different kind of channel, they have lots of different things, and kind of you as a group ask to see different things. So one of the channels I like to watch, there are always unclaimed baskets. And what that means is a different host at some point had put items in a basket that someone said they were going to buy that they never did. So it's always so fun to go through the unclaimed baskets because it's a variety of stuff. So I can spend hours watching a host go through an unclaimed basket, and she'll go, oh, here's a beautiful flower agate heart. And this particular channel, everything is always 50% off, which you know is a scam, right? It's not a sale if it's always 50% off. But I, of course, fall for it every time. She'll be like, this rose quartz heart, it's $10, but it's $5. I'm like, but it's $5. How can I not buy it? It's $5. And that particular channel does free shipping after $10. So if it's a $5, because it was $10, even though nobody ever paid $10 for it, I'm like, claim. claim flower agate heart for $5. So I've had that experience. Then there is a guy named Alex, and there's a huge crystal market in China. There's probably more than one because China is a big country. But if you've ever been to an enormous flea market, that takes up a couple city blocks, that's what this crystal market is like. And there's gorgeous stuff there. I mean, beautiful. So Alex goes and he shops for people. So there's a whole contingent of people that tune into Alex's channel. I haven't bought from him yet because his shipping is higher and it exceeds my comfort level. Now, if I were looking for something special, I would absolutely buy it from Alex. But it doesn't get in under my radar like the $5 flower agate heart does. Because if I get to $10, I get free shipping. And if I spend under $20, it's like I haven't spent any money. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying this is how my mind works. So what happens next? Well, you know there's more, yes? So Wes, who loves crystals, whose bar of comfort level when it comes to expenditures is far different than my own, starts getting intrigued by what I'm experiencing on Crystal Talk. And this is a good thing, and it's a terrible thing all at the same time, because when he and I are excited about something together, we get pretty dangerous. It's like neither one of us talks the other down. And no, this is not where we got a crystal the size of a car, so that's not where this ends. So he has been saying to me, can you project the TikTok on the big screen TV so I can watch with you rather than leaning over to look at your iPad? So I finally figured out how to do that yesterday. I'm so proud of myself. So there's a woman named Alice, and she works at a big crystal factory in China, of course. And I found her channel one day, and they do a lot of the crystal carving there. So they have, not only do they have the polished pieces, like towers and things like that, but they have huge rock piles in their yard. But it's not a boring rock pile. It's a rock pile filled with huge pieces of lapis and rose quartz and lepidolite and ocean jasper. I'm saying these names as if they're everyday common terms, but I didn't know what half of these stones were before my obsession with crystal TikTok. So she was out at the pile, and I noticed this gorgeous lilac purple stone. And so I quickly type in the comments, what is that? And there's always a lag. Like, my message is never quite getting to her at the moment that she is looking at what I'm seeing. So there's a little bit of a lag, and we have to, find our way into knowing that we're talking about the same thing. And she said, so that's lepidolite, which I hadn't heard of before, but lepidolite is a really beautiful lilac colored stone. And I said, I love that. How much is that piece? And so unless something is a really rare stone, their stuff is $30 a kilo, which is a good price, but stones are really heavy, so they can get expensive. But if you buy $50 or more, shipping is free, and shipping costs a lot of money. So I point to the stone, to Wes. I was like, isn't this pretty? He's like, we should get it. And the piece was going to be $66, which now has exceeded my comfort level. So I was saying, let's get a smaller piece, right? I'm thinking, let's find a $20 piece of lepidolite. And Wes says, no, I like that one. And he likes the stones uncut in their raw form. And Alice brought us another couple of pieces of lepidolite. And so we wound up getting 2 pieces of lepidolite because Wes now got involved in this transaction. And in addition, Alice had been showing these beautiful fluorite spheres that when you light them up, they change color. Like in the regular daylight, they're one color, but if you shine a light through them, which apparently people do quite a bit with their rocks, it turns a different color. That was $17. So I said yes to that because that flew under my radar. So now we have this order for 2 pieces of lepidolite and my sphere, and I also bought a couple of towers, but together the towers were $6, so that basically was no money because that's a Starbucks order, right? I'm just telling you how my mind works. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's just how it works for me. So, meanwhile, Wes is watching this transaction, and he's seeing this huge rock pile filled with enormous uncut rocks of every color. Orange rocks, red rocks, amethyst, rose quartz, ocean jasper, green ametrine, and they're gorgeous. And Wes keeps pointing to the biggest rocks, going, see, that's the one that I want. And I keep trying to explain to them it's $30 a kilo. Like, that rock clearly weighs like 10 kilos, which would be, what, it's a kilo is 2.2 pounds, right? So, is this going to get expensive? And he's like, I don't care. I said, I do. I do care a lot. And so he would point to like the biggest boulder and he'd be like, see, I want that one. And I had to explain to him that unless we were seriously going to be buying a boulder, I was not going to ask Alice to get her coworkers to heft a boulder onto the scale so we could find out how much it costs. And Wes was saying, no, I'm going to get that. I said, we're not, because I'm in charge of the keyboard. Unless you figure out how to run TikTok, we're not getting that. I didn't really say that. It just sounds funny now. So last night, after I figured out how to project TikTok onto the television, we go over back to Alice's channel. So we've already purchased the 2 pieces of lepidolite, but now Wes is involved in a transaction with me. And so we went shopping with Alice in China. And listen, we didn't get into dangerous money, so don't worry about us, we're good. But it's just funny how my version of a bit like a spontaneous purchase is different from Wes's. So we're getting have you ever seen Blue Appetite? It's gorgeous. It's like this beautiful sky blue color. It's exquisite. So we got a really nice piece of Blue Appetite. We got a really beautiful piece of something green. I forget what it's called. Something about green mica being involved in it. Beautiful. We got a piece of ocean jasper, which I don't know if you know about ocean jasper, but it's multicolored. And then we got a piece of lapis, which is, of course, gorgeous. And rhodonite, is it called? I don't know, but it's red. It's like black and red. Very pretty. So that was our indulgence last night. And we're going to put those in our garden. Because who doesn't want brightly colored rocks that are beautiful in their garden, right? Wes loves his garden. He loves his rocks. So this will be a lovely purchase for us. So it's just so funny to sit back and witness how something that is so little can bring us such pleasure. Like, life is hard right now, right? Like, life is heavy. And I love that I can scroll through TikTok and see these beautiful things and connect with people half a world away. And 2 weeks later, I have these beautiful little stones in my house And it makes me so happy. It's such a sweet thing. You know, before the pandemic, I would have spent an hour going through Home Goods or something like that. Like, I loved Home Goods. I loved wandering through. I would go through, of course, the food aisle, right? I never got great food there, though, but I looked. You know, I might get some syrup for my coffee or something, sugar-free, of course. I loved going through their stationery aisle. I loved looking at their dishes and their coffee cups. And, you know, I would get out of there spending less than $20. Now, since the pandemic, I am somebody who masks. You might not, it's all good. I'm going to mask. And I don't find that kind of wandering shopping to have a good time to be as fulfilling with a mask on. I don't seem to mind grocery shopping, but the Home Goods or Michael's kind of shopping, just the wandering in and out of store shopping, I just don't enjoy as much wearing a mask, and I'm not going to take off my mask because of many reasons. I'm not here to talk about that right now. So it's so sweet that these crystal live streams are just bringing me a tremendous amount of pleasure. And at some point, I'm not going to be buying any more crystals. I'm not really worried about it because I know my own pattern. I binge and then I'm sated. I'm done. It's like I'm not crazy buying yarn. I'm not crazily buying cookbooks anymore. I'm not like it runs its season with me. So I have, I think, like 3 more orders plus the stuff we ordered last night still on its way here. And I bought a lot of more baby hearts. And when I say a lot, I mean like $20 worth. And I bought some tumbles and some chips. So my little personal treasure trove of crystal confetti, to borrow Kendra's term, will be established. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it just delights me that it exists in my home, in our home, just like it delights me that I have my Eisenhower dollars and my Kennedy half dollars, and it delights me that I have some of my favorite food in the freezer, which is a whole other conversation, that I have absolutely become my mother's daughter because my mother was all about keeping food in the freezer because you never knew when you would need it or want it, and I have taken to doing that. So I've got my crystals, I've got my coins, I've got my food in the freezer, I've got my yarn, I've got my cookbooks. And these things just comfort me in a world that is frickin' crazy right now. So my hope is you have something that is comforting you that is benign as well. Like for me, all this stuff is benign. It's not putting me in a difficult situation physically, financially. It all sort of fits in my life. So I will share pictures of crystals. And if you have a favorite kind of crystal and at some point you feel like you need a little treat from the universe, feel free to drop me a note. And if I have it and I can get it to you, perhaps there will be a baby heart for you in your future. I don't know. Let's see where this goes. But I'm delighted to share my delight with you in hopes that it will spark your delight as well. And so, my beautiful, precious friend, thank you for allowing me to ramble to you about my weird ways. And there's a wonderful word in Yiddish called mashugana, which means crazy, not like bad crazy. Well, I guess it could be bad crazy, but more like, oh my God, they're mashugana. Like it's, oh my God, that's crazy. So I'm a little mashugana right now over crystal TikTok. And I'm having the best time. And it is calming my nervous system because one of the things I know for myself, with as crazy as the world is right now, I have really had to be very mindful about regulating my nervous system. Now, I know people talk about meditation. I'm a spiritual teacher, right? Meditation and walks in nature, and yeah, I get it. But my earth girl, my spiritual part of me appreciates those things. My earth girl, who in this moment cannot eat a giant chocolate cake because I no longer eat sugar, I need something else. So right now, instead of chocolate cake, I am buying baby hearts. Okay, that sounded so dark. Let's say that a different way. Now, instead of chocolate cake, instead of chocolate cake, I am buying teeny tiny crystal hearts that delight me. In beautiful lilac colored stones. And it's a much better choice than chocolate cake for me personally right now. I mean, if you're doing chocolate cake, I get it. I love you, God bless you. But that's not an option for me right now, so I'm buying crystals instead. So here from Crystal Central at Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei, wishing you a wonderful sleep and the sweetest of dreams. I love you. Thank you for being you. You make the world a better place. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you.